Welcome everybody to another episode of Cross Border Talks, which I will be hosting together with the co-host Weronika Suszowa-Salminen. And our guest today, Leila Chaibi, is the member of the European Parliament, member of the Left Group in the European Parliament. And the topic we are going to discuss is the Platform Workers Directive, the directive that was unfortunately rejected in this February, which in our view is a great step back in constructing any social Europe, the Europe which is rather a community of solidarity than the community of competitivity. Platform work may seem exotic as terms still to some of our listeners, but I am sure you know very well what we are talking about if you remind how many people cycling with food delivery, of how many Uber cars have you seen in the streets of virtually every European bigger city, and not only European, of course. And we are going to discuss the law that was supposed to offer, I'm sure, not only basic labor rights to people employed in the sector. It was to open them a sense of dignity and security, but it was rejected. And in a further context, it makes a big question mark on the whole effort of Europe being the Europe for people and not only for business. Leila, welcome to the program. I'm happy that we can have you with us.
Hi, hello everybody. Thank you very much for the invitation.
I would like to ask you first, how did the process of the preparation of the Platform Workers Directive look like? Who are the forces who tried to support these people? And to what extent was the European left engaged? And to what extent the platform workers themselves could influence the process?
Yeah, the legislative process about the Platform Work Directive started almost 5 years ago. And it has been a long process with a balance of power. In one part, you had the lobby, which are very powerful in Brussels, and especially Uber lobby, with some ally, and in particularly some countries have been allied, and unfortunately, Macron, the French president, has been one of the biggest ally. And on the other hand, in this balance of power, in all the legislative process, you had the workers themselves and the progressive forces inside the European Parliament. Well, and things didn't happen as it was supposed to happen. Because when I arrived in the European Parliament in 2019, you know, the European Parliament doesn't have the right of initiative. We are the only parliament in the world who are not allowed to write the first draft of the directive, of the legislative proposal. We have to push on, to pressure and to ask the European Commission to do it. First of all, the first story, when I arrived in 2019 in the European Parliament, you know, the president of the European Commission say all the issue we are going to work on during the legislature. She's saying she's explaining this and this and this, we're going to do legislative proposal. And what I heard first is that she said, Ursula von der Leyen, we are going to work on a legislative proposal about platform work. But at this time, it doesn't mean that we were going to have a directive, and it didn't even mean that we are going to have a directive that say we need a presumption of employment relationship. And when I heard that, when I heard Ursula von der Leyen, my objective, my goal, and the goal of all the progressive forces inside the European Parliament was to have a directive that say platform workers need to have the presumption of employment relationship. On the other hand, you had the lobby, when they were listening to Ursula von der Leyen, they thought, okay, very good. We're going to have a directive that says that you can have a third status between the status of employment relationship and the status of self-employed. And this status is going to allow us to have workers under your subordination relationship, workers that you can control, you can sanction, you can give direction, but without having to pay the social protection of any employee without having to respect labor law, to respect collective bargaining. And that was the idea, because all over Europe, you have workers, they are supposed to be self-employed, they are Uber drivers, they are riders for Deliveroo, Uber Eats. And they said, okay, I'm supposed to be self-employed, but I know I'm not. I cannot choose my price. I cannot choose how I work. They can disconnect me, which means fire. They can fire me without any word from a human being. And so what are they doing? What do they do? They go to the tribunal to see the judge, to the court. They're going to the court. And what does the judge say? He say, almost on all of the case, he say, okay, you are supposed to be self-employed, but you're not self-employed. So the platform need to reclassify. You need to be reclassified with the employment status. And so the platforms, they were fed up with all of that. And when they listened to Ursula von der Leyen in 2019, they said, okay, very good, because as usual, European Union is going to make a political decision more in favor of us, lobby, than in favor of the worker. So it was seen as an opportunity. And since 2000 now, we start a balance of power between them and us, and things didn't happen as they said. And the main, I can tell you, if you are interested in the legislative proposal, first of all, we had to fight for a good proposal from the European Commission. And we managed to do it in December 2021. The European Commission, Nicolas Schmit, especially the Commissioner of Employment Affairs, he published a proposal that say platform workers need to have the presumption of employment relationship. It was not, he did that because it was the first victory for us. And what happened? How did we do? The main element that makes that we managed to have the European Commission with us, and then the European Parliament with us, and then 23 member states out of 27, it was that we build a kind of alternative lobbying. And we didn't expect, European Union didn't expect to have the voice in the debate in the stakeholders, to have the voice of the workers themselves. Because what are we talking about? We're talking about workers, they don't have a contract, an employment relationship contract. They are alone in their bike or in their car. Well, it's even difficult to organize in every country, but we managed to build a kind of alternative lobbying, bringing them in Brussels, giving them the opportunity to speak between each other and to build a kind of force, and to pressure on the legislative process. That's how we managed to win the balance of power in front of the lobby, to win several steps, but unfortunately, now it's very difficult. This is the end of the process. We managed to have an agreement in December in the trilogue, which means an agreement between the European Parliament and the Council with the Commission. First agreement in December, it was rejected by the Council, which is something very unusual. Usually when you have an agreement in the trilogue, it's very common that the Council validates it. We start again the negotiation under the Belgian presidency of the Council. On the 8th of February, we had a second agreement in trilogue. It was very watered down, but it was still something that was going to improve the workers' life. But it was still not enough for our enemy in this history, because what they want is really, they want a directive, not only a directive watered down. They don't want a directive that improve workers' life at all. They want a directive that is in favor of Uber. They want to write the law, and they want a directive that make worse the process of work classification for the worker. And on the 7th, so 10 days ago, 15 days ago, the Council another time rejected, but in a situation where you had 23 member states that are agree with the agreement, 4 member states only, but we know that we have a last chance. It will be on the 11th of March. The 11th of March, you have a meeting with the the Minister of Labour of all European Union. So it will be at a political step. Last time it was the ambassador. And if we manage to convince only one member state, and we think especially about Estonia, if we manage to convince Estonia about the agreement of the 8th of February, the directive will be implemented, will be adopted. So this is very important. I think we don't have to expect anything from France, because the day Macron is okay, is agree, means that we have a bad directive. But Estonia, especially Estonia, it will be our last chance to have a directive.
Yes, you mentioned several actors who are involved in this quite difficult process for maybe outsiders to understand how the directive is constructed. And you especially a few times mentioned lobbies. And I would like to have a bit look at this, because this is something what is known, but probably not so known. So if you would still tell us more precisely how this business lobby, because we know that Uber has a huge lobby, and by the European Commission or in the European Union. And was it really only the lobbying which was the ultimate reason for the failure of this, or so far failure of this directive?
Yeah, when you are elected in the European Parliament, this is very concrete to see what is lobbying, even if it can be maybe difficultly understandable from outside. What does it mean? It means group of interest, private interest, multinational interest, and it means that it's very common that they write the law, not officially, but they have many power in Brussels. You know, when you are in the European Parliament, all the MEPs, the member of the European Parliament, we all are, except the Belgian, because most of the job we do it in Brussels, and we are all very far from our citizen, very far physically. And citizens think that what's happening in the European Union seems very, very far, very complicated. They don't understand. So this makes that you have the way free for the lobby. And the lobby, they have a badge, the same badge as we have as MEP, but a different color. They can come and go out of the European Parliament. If you or any citizen want to come inside the European Parliament, you need to be accredited. You cannot go like that, hello, and I want to come. No. But the lobbies, they come, and they know perfectly what's happening inside. It gives them even physically, the European Parliament is in the middle of the European bubble. We call it like that, the European bubble. It seems something to call it like that. Inside of an area, le quartier européen in French, you have only offices outside with lobby. You don't have houses or monuments. No, you have houses with lobby. And so they have many ways to influence the legislative process, and in favor of private interest. And that is one of the reasons why the European Union, the European Parliament take decision in favor of the lobby, because the citizens, they are very far. At the beginning of this story about platform workers, what I had in front of me was Uber and Deliveroo platform lobbies. You will never have in the card, you will never have written lobbyist. Of course, you have public relation, for example, public affair. But at the beginning, it was clear that it was written Deliveroo, Uber. But after a few months, I had not anymore Uber and Deliveroo, but association like Movie EU Tech Alliance. You think that it's an association about mobility. And they said, we're going to give you our opinion about the Platform Work Directive. But when you go to the website, when you do a little research, you find that in reality, they are representing the main platform, but they are hidden themselves. And what was the second part of your question? Sorry.
The second was if only lobbies were behind this failure, or
yeah.
if it was more
No.
complicated. Yeah.
Yeah, of course, because of course we didn't have a direct fight against lobby. What the legislative, the MEP was supposed to do the law. Well, you have in the European Union you have you have three institutions. You have the European Commission. The European Commission was involved a lot in this issue because the European Commission has to do the first legislative publication. And for me, it was very important that inside the European Commission, you have commissioner. You have one in charge of the employment, you have another one inside of the market, you have another one in charge of the competition. And for me, since the beginning, it was very important that the ones that is in charge of employment was in charge of this issue. So you have first a battle to make that Nicolas Schmidt take the issue. He is not the most important. You have balance of power in every institution, even inside the European Commission. And the commissioner in charge of employment, he's not at all the most important. He's very weak compared to the big Margaret Vestager in charge of competition, for example. And so for me, it was to push that. Why was it important? Because if you start the job saying that it's an issue of employment, the directive will not be at all the same as if you start the job saying that it's a matter of competition. If you start saying it's a matter of competition, you will still think, as Macron of the French government think, that you have self-employed, you have company, and you don't have to talk about labor law. So first of all, yeah, inside the European Commission, to make that Nicolas Schmidt takes the files. After that, you have, when the European Commission makes the first draft, she has to send it to the European Parliament and to the Council, the two other institutions of the European Union. Inside the European Parliament, you have many MEP like me from different countries, from different groups. And inside the European Parliament, at the beginning, we have still always been on a line with the progressive forces, which means the Green and the Socialists, the SND. But we managed to convince border that in this issue. How did we do? We managed to convince even the right wing, the traditional right, EPP, because how did we do that? The European Parliament said we need a very strong presumption of employment relationship, because even if you like the ideas that are more attached to the right wing, like level playing field, fair competition, things like that, you cannot accept that you have in the market company that respects the law, they pay cotisation, social protection, respect the collective bargaining, and other ones that they don't respect. It's a matter of level playing field. If you respect the status of self-employed, you cannot accept that you have bogus self-employed, because bogus self-employed, it is a risk for the self-employed. So in this issue, it's not only traditional left-wing arguments, but also this is a matter. That's how we managed to have all the parliaments. Even if inside it was the most difficult was to tackle with Renew, the officialist center, but they are very liberal, and for them, there was that was the group that had the biggest ally, the platform finds the biggest ally. They also found inside the EPP group, of course, we have been very lucky in this story to have the negotiator we have from the EPP group was someone, he's from the right wing, but he's also a former syndicalist, a trade unionist. But inside the EPP, the platform, the lobby, they found ally, of course. They are not inside the negotiation room, but they give argument. Sometimes you are in an employment committee and you listen to some MEP. I'm thinking, for example, Miriam Lexman, that is an EPP MEP, and she's saying exactly with the same word what Hubert has written for her. So this is the second place of the negotiation. And the third one, it is inside the council. The council, you have the representative of the 27 member states. And inside you have a lie of me, and you have ally of platform. And the best ally of platform workers of us, it's Spain inside. You have Spain and France on the opposite way. Spain, best ally, because this is the first country that has already a law, la ley rider, a law that says that if you are in the delivery, food delivery, the delivery sector, you need to have employee. It's forbidden to have self-employed. So it was very important, and the job we've done during the Spanish presidency in the second semester of 2023 has been very important, because we know that even if they don't have as much room of maneuver as they wish they had, because they have to represent of the council, but we knew that we have someone that is better, that when you have the French presidency of the Czech Republic, of when we had the Czech Republic presidency. And inside the council, you have Spain, and you have, on the other hand, France. And France has been the best ally of the lobby. It's the same inside the council. You don't have the lobbies. They are not in the room of the negotiation, but they have a lie. And when you see that every time Dara Khosrowshahi, the CEO from Uber, he asks for something in Politico or in the position paper, 2 months after, the French government is doing it, is implementing it. So you have these three, the balance of power. I hope this is clear explaining like that.
Yes, it is quite clear. I would still ask you about one more thing, which to move it to a bit more general level. Maybe it's too much generalization, but how we would evaluate this example? What does it tell us about how the European Union in general is run? How are run the European economic and social policies? And if it's so that the social Europe, is still far from us, and the contemporary European Union is still run by the private business interests, which are much more powerful than the idea of social Europe, or what is your idea about this?
I think this is a very interesting question. Because with this example, yeah, we're not talking about platform workers' rights, riders' right, or Uber drivers' right. We're talking about the social, you have the social model. And that's why when you have government, why do you have so much action in this? Because the issue is, do you want to respect the labor law, the collective bargaining, the social protection, or do you want to allow any platform, but it can be any employer, any company, in any sector, in the restaurant, in the supermarket, and should have the authorization to have people working under a subordination relationship, but without any right, without any protection. This is the issue. And it's true that I think maybe we didn't manage to have that directive, but at the same time, we managed to win several steps. And I think we would not have managed to win this step maybe 10 years ago or 15 years ago. Because I think things have changed in the European Union. We are not in the social Europe is very far, in my opinion. In my opinion, it's still very far. And I'm not going to say that, yeah, with the election, next European election, we will have a social Europe, but things have changed. You know that at the beginning, when European Union was created, it was the market. And if we do the competition, the market, we will have the social will come automatically. We see that in 2017, it was the first time you have a text, the European social pillar, when we say, okay, no, we need to give European Union social principle, and social goals, social objective targets. Okay, but nothing very concrete. Then 2019, you have the COVID crisis, and it's very important social consequences. And then many people in the European Union realize that if we want European Union to survive, it cannot be only a market. And many people realize inside the European Union that things that we could be a kind of dogma. Like, when you are a member state of the European Union, you cannot go further than 3% of your deficit. That you have to be very careful with the state heads, because be careful that it has to respect the competition, things like that, things that make that you don't invest, you don't allow member state to invest in the hospital, in the public housing as we would need to. But with the social consequences, very important of the COVID-19, things have changed, and it's like that dogma has moved. And people are aware that if we want European Union to survive, the political decision cannot be taken under the target of market competition, but also with the goal of social issue, to tackle with social issue. And I think this have given the opportunity to make more social political decision and political action. But unfortunately, I would not say things have changed, that it has not been the revolution inside the European Union. You know, I was talking about the budgetary contraint, budgetaire. For example, the 3%, you don't go further than 3% of deficit. Unfortunately, with the last decision from the European Commission, it's kind of a comeback of austerity. We're going to vote on this issue on the Economic Committee on Monday, and it seems that unfortunately we are coming back to the common and traditional bad decision of austerity and restricting the investment from member states. But it's a little bit, I would make the comparison that it's a little bit that the door has been open. We can push, we managed to push and to have some victory, but now behind the door you have other people pushing on the other way. And will we manage to which is a very open but very little open, will we manage to open it if we push a lot, or will they manage to close again it on the other way? So that's why I think that we have the opportunity. On est à, I don't know the word in English, la croisée des chemins. We are, European Union has to choose. Should we continue the way we've done for decades, but which doesn't work, and which makes that people, when they're not going to vote to the European election, but you have an increase of white populism, extreme white, you have an hemicycle which is more and more on the extreme right wing. Or should we think of it and to make a kind of new paradigm inside of the European Parliament, but broader inside of the European Union?
I'd like to ask you what will happen with the new paradigm if the new European Parliament is more to the right than the one we have today. And according to all polls, we will see a European Parliament with more far-right representatives than ever. And while I could agree with you that indeed people in the European Union are tired with austerity, and we see it even in the streets, we see the expectation for more social Europe, these polls don't really allow us to be optimists about the future. So do you expect the new European Parliament to be even harder place to push for social Europe? Or do you see some possibilities that indeed were not there 10 years ago?
Yeah, of course, I am very afraid when I see the polls, because even now, when you see the balance of power inside the European Parliament, my seat inside the hemicycle is on the left side. In front of me, I see the far right groups. We have two inside, ID, Identity Democracy, ECR, and they're much bigger than we are. And even if they are much bigger than we are, we manage to make, for example, that the European Parliament said that we are in favor of a presumption of employment relationship about platform workers. I'm very afraid, because I know that there is bad chance that the next European Parliament will be much more, the group from the far right are going to be much bigger than they are, and it's going to be much difficult, and there is chances that we're going to have to make more resistance than building a new right. But I think what will be determinant, if we don't want just to look at this and to look the European Parliament being more and more on the far right, we need to change to make that the decisions are made by European Union more in favor of people, because since you will still have, it's like a serpent qui se mord la queue. Since the decision are not in favor of the people don't see that it's useful to go to vote in favor of a progressive group in the European Parliament, and so you have a parliament even more on the far right that don't make decision in favor of the people. So I think we first have to do the maximum in order to that people going to vote, because what I see is that the first vote for people is not the far right vote, is that they don't vote. In my country, 1 out of 2 people, 1 out of 2 citizens don't go to vote for the European election. So this is the first issue. This is the first issue, to say what's happening inside the European Union, inside the European Parliament, have an impact on your life, on your daily life. So first of all, it's important to go to vote to the next election, and then we will have to continue the fight inside the European Parliament, but also at the national level, at any steps, in order to make that. Yes, we still have to try to open this door I was talking about. That clearly is going to. There is many risks that it's going to be closed again.
Okay, and the final question is, what next? You said that if you manage to convince Estonia, then the directive is still in the game. What can be done for the platform workers if so much lobbying, if there was so much lobbying effort to stop it? What are your next steps?
First of all, I want to say that even if until now, we have not managed to have this directive adopted, something we managed to is that Uber didn't make the law in Europe. Because I was talking about the balance of power we started 5 years ago. Really, the lobby, Uber, for them, it was written. It was very easy. It was supposed to be very easy to have a directive that say you have a third category between the employment statute and the self-employed status, and they didn't make it. We didn't make it, and that is a first win. And I know that, especially by the voice of the French government, they wanted something that we all called inside the negotiation the French derogation. During the months of negotiation between the Parliament and the Council, they wanted to insert the French derogation. It was a kind of derogation that would have made the directive totally useless and totally empty, totally watered down. They didn't make it. Now we don't have a directive. So we have a last change, as I said. The last change is on the 11th of March, and I wish the Belgian presidency is going to convince just one more member state. We have 23. Is it a democracy? We are in 3 months. We have a European election. We have the opportunity to show that for once, European Union can make a policy, can make policy in favor of the people, in favor of the worker, instead of in favor of the lobby, as she's doing always. It's not only for my group, but I think it's for many groups, for the interest of the European Union itself, that we have to adopt this directive. Because otherwise, 5 years of job that we can put in the bin? Another time, lobby have decided how they do the law. And while we have all the European Parliament that is convinced, all the European Commission that is convinced, and 23 member states out of 27. So I think, I don't know if you have any contact with Estonian people, in order that they can convince the government that Bolt, which is an Estonian platform, doesn't have to make the law, because I know that Bolt have said to the government, to the Estonian government, we're going to go to the Great Britain, to the UK, we're going to go to the UK if you agree with the agreement. Maybe if you have contact also with Germany, because Germany, they said that because of the government of coalition, they don't want to take position in this fight, but it's a pity because, only one member state is necessary. So I have good. I hope we will have a last change. You know, in this history, nothing happened as it was supposed to happen. So maybe we will going to have a directive adopted. And if we don't, I will be very sad. And I hope we will not, if we don't have an agreement on the 11th of March, as we have the election in June, we will not have a directive during this legislature. It's going to be too short. It will be impossible. We will start again the fight from the next legislature, but as you know, as we say, it will be much more difficult because of the far right inside the European Parliament. The balance of power will be much more complicated. But last thing I can say is that something which will not be lost, even if we don't have a directive, is that the involvement of the workers. Now we have another stakeholders. We have a new stakeholders that is that kind of international network of platform workers, gig workers, and now they are not going to go home and no, it's a powerful network, it's a powerful lobby, and I think now platform, they will not be able to do whatever they want to because we have to count on a new stakeholder, which is that kind of alternative lobby of gig workers.
So this was the next episode of our cross-border talks. Our guest was a French Europarlament member, Leila Chaibi. We thank you, Leila, for your answers and very precise information about this topic. And
thank you very much.
We spoke, actually, I will remind everybody in the end that we spoke about the future of platform workers and the labor rights of platform workers, which is expanding, technologically driven trend in our economies currently, and that's why it is very important thing, because it is something which I think will even influence the future of labor. That's why this directive, that's why this initiative is very, very important. And I will remind everybody, don't forget to subscribe our channels in SoundCloud or in YouTube. You will find there a lot of different interviews about a lot of different things. And also follow our website, where you can find also a lot of new articles and very interesting article. I can remind last one about Polish infrastructure project and their future. Thank you very much, Leila. Thank you, Malgorzata, and have a nice day, everybody who was with us today.